Recordings in progress. Okay, so as we've been doing for pretty much every Wednesday over the last couple months, is we are going through each point in the Mike Ferry sales system and going over a number of points below each one of those key headline points. We are now up to point 18, which means we're getting close to being done. You know, we're only going to 21. So we're getting close to being done here. So we're at point 18. Point 18 is goal setting and motivation. Goal setting and motivation. So what I have here is a list of thoughts, ideas regarding goal setting and motivation, some of which you've heard before, some of which maybe you haven't heard before, some of which maybe you're hearing it a different way this time. Doesn't really matter. All I'm looking for here is a couple points that might make a difference for you. All right. They're not written in any particular order of importance. You decide what's most important to you and then go off of that. So let's jump into this. Goal setting and motivation. So I want to start with this thought. Now, you've heard me say this before, but I think it's so important that I'm going to say it again, and I would recommend that you write it down again, underline it, highlight it, stars around it, put it in color, whatever the case may be, okay? And here it is. Here's the thought. If you don't know what you're going to exchange the money for, you're not going to do the work. Goal setting and motivation, point 1. If you don't know what you're going to exchange the money for, you're not going to do the work. Why? Because prospecting sucks. If you get nothing else out of the next 30, 35 minutes, that's the point. That's the ultimate thing with goal setting and motivation. You have to know what you're going to exchange the money for. Are you in real estate to make some money? Yes? Okay. If you don't have your camera on, put something in the chat box or unmute yourself. I can see people shaking their heads that have the camera on, but if you don't have your camera on, help me here. Otherwise, I can just go to a breakout room with a couple people.
Sir, yes, sir.
It's like, there we go.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to finish setting up an inspection.
No. I could see you, Tyrone. I could see you shaking your head. Saying the people that are on camera, I can see them thumbs up, shaking their head. Like, okay, the people that aren't on camera, either unmute yourself or put something in the chat box. I don't know that you're breathing. Okay. So now that we've established that you're in it for the money, okay, because as Mike Ferry would say, you know, people who say, I'm just in real estate because I love people are sick. That's what Mike would say, right? Yes, I understand it. And now it's a nice job because you get to deal with people and you don't have to dig ditches. You're not in coal mines or anything like that. So that's nice, but you're in it for the money. Okay. So now that we've established you're in it for the money, you have to identify what you're going to exchange the money for, because this is a very important thought. The money will not motivate you. The money will not motivate you. Now, some of you don't believe that, and that's okay. This can be a hard thing to understand after a certain amount of time. The money won't motivate you. Here's what I mean by that. You fill out a business plan and you say, oh man, I'm going to make $200,000 this year. I'll make 100,000. I'll make 500,000. I'm going to make $1 million, 2 million, whatever your number is, right? That's exciting. Okay. Everyone's at a different place in their career. The number of making $200,000 is not going to motivate you. It's just not going to do it. You have to know, what does the $200,000 do for you? And here's the other point. Paying bills is also not going to motivate you. It's just not. Now, paying bills is a part of life. You have to pay your bills. Don't stop paying your bills. You know what, Robert, you're right. Paying bills does not motivate me, so I'm going to stop paying them. Ah, crap. It's not what it is. Quick story I'll share with you. So years ago, I was a lender, and We had a buyer and got him pre-approved and things like that. So gave him pre-approval. Now, 60 days later, gets his offer accepted. But because it was 60 days later, we had at those days, you had to rerun a credit every 90 days. I rerun his credit, and his credit score tanked. I look at his credit report, and he had all of a sudden had all these delinquencies on his credit cards. So I call him up. I said, "What happened? What are you doing? Why'd you have delinquencies on his credit cards?" He goes, "Well, I was trying to save up more for the down payment, so I stopped paying my credit cards." I was like, "No." So don't stop paying your bills. Keep paying your bills is the moral of that story. Okay, but I have to go through that. The money won't motivate you. Paying your bills won't motivate you. It has to be something exciting. Now, you have to decide what's exciting. For some people, exciting is experiences. I'll tell you what I want to do with the money. I want to go to Greece for 2 weeks and stay in Santorini and go to all these other great places and do all that stuff. That's what I want to do. And that's going to cost me 10, 15, 20 grand, maybe more, depending on where I'm staying. I want to take my whole family to Italy. Gal's name, if anyone remembers, let me know. There's a gal who always goes to the Mike Ferry events, and she talked about how her goal was to take her entire family to Hawaii. And I'm talking like the kids, the grandkids, the whole thing. It was like 30 people. And she wanted to fly them all to Hawaii from Michigan or something like that. That's an experience. So it could be an experience that motivates you. It could be something personal, meaning that you have young kids and you want to pay for their college education. You want to make sure they don't have any debt when they get out of college, which is a big thing in today's world. Okay. Could be that you have a spouse and you want your spouse to have the opportunity to stop working if you don't want them to. Okay. So you have to decide. So again, you won't do it just for the money and you won't do it just to pay your bills. You have to figure out what you're going to exchange the money for. Okay. So moving on to the next point here. I wrote down, as we've stated, you have to think big and we have to learn to think big and focus on our business plan. We have to learn to think big and focus on our business plan. It is also good to set short-term goals throughout the year to keep you excited and on track. So part of goal setting and motivation is you have to learn to think big. This goes back to what I was saying of what are you going to exchange the money for? Has to be something exciting. You just won't do the work. Show of hands. How many people, if money wasn't involved, would get up in the morning and go, you know what I'd love to do is call 30 just listed, just solds. If money wasn't involved. Nick raised his hand for a second and it was like, never mind. Yeah, if money wasn't involved, you wouldn't do it. Especially for those of you that, I think pretty much everyone on here lives in California. We might have a couple people outside of California. You know how many things there are to do on a day in California? I could go to the beach. I go to the mountains. I can go for a hike. I can go for a walk. I can go at these restaurants. I can go to theme parks. I can do all these other different things. I can do all this stuff that's better than a just listed, just sold call. So you have to create something exciting. You have to think big of, well, what did all these just listed, just sold calls get me or expired or whatever the case may be. I'm just using just listed, just sold as an example. Okay. Think big, focus on your business plan, and then set short-term goals throughout the year. Weekly goals, daily goals. Neil tells us this all the time at 9 a.m. Write your goals down for the day. Short-term goals lead to long-term success. Because sometimes where we miss the goal setting and motivation, when all we do is set the yearly goal seems so far away. Would you agree that time moves very fast? That the year just kind of comes and goes? Yeah. Moves very quickly. So
Especially the older you get.
especially the older you get. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Especially the older you get. Time moves quickly, right? So the point of that is when we only focus on the yearly goal, we think it's so far away, and yet all of a sudden it'll be July. And then you're going to have Neil talking about Christmas is coming, right? And then Christmas will be here. So you have to really focus on the short-term goals to make sure you're staying excited, you're staying focused, you keep moving forward. Okay.
So Robert, you think the best idea is to do like the daily, weekly, monthly short-term goals
Yes.
versus quarterly, or what's?
I would do yearly and then yes, daily, monthly, daily, weekly goals. I'm not a giant fan of quarterly goals. Doesn't make it right or wrong. I just think have the big goal in mind, which is the year goal, and then break it down to a daily, weekly goal.
Yeah.
That because I got to keep it in front of me. There's too much stuff that goes on in our day-to-day lives, real estate and outside of real estate, to focus on things that are too far out. I got to focus on today. I got to focus on this week. And if I can win the day, this is my favorite thing. This is a quote that I always use. I'm just trying to win the day. If I can if my focus is to win the day, and throughout the year, I win enough days, my yearly goal will be accomplished.
Yeah, I think sometimes looking at that yearly goal causes procrastination. Oh, I still have time, or even
100%.
oh, I don't think I can reach it, and so
that's it. That's the other one.
Yeah.
Yep. Miguel hit it right on the head. Both of them. It's either procrastination because it's like I have time, or it seems that you get to a point where it seems out of reach. Yep, he hit on the head, both of them. And yet, if you just focus on the weekly goal, the daily goal, it's all possible. Okay, here's a perfect example. Perfect example. I know Robert's going to use another sports analogy. It's just the way it is. Okay. This past weekend, the Rams were playing the Bucks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay. Those of you that watched the game, the Rams were up 27-3. We're totally dominating the game. And it was, going into, I think when they got up 27-3, it was going into the fourth quarter. Game should have been over. So if the mindset would have been like, well, gosh, the game's over, no reason for me to come back. But instead, Tampa Bay's mindset was just focus on the next play. We got to get a next play. We got to get the next first down. We got to get one score. Okay. Now we get, and it's just focus on play by play by play by play by play. Then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, they got a score. Now it's 27-10 or whatever, the 27-6 maybe. And then 27-10, 27-13, and then 27-20. And then all of a sudden they get another stop and then they tied it up 27-27. Now the Rams then came back and won. But the point was it was 27-3. In the fourth quarter, it should have been over, but instead they focused on, I just got to win the next play, win the next play, win the next play. There's still time to do it. So when you only focus on the yearly goal, that's the equivalent of I'm only focused on the end of the game. And when I'm down 27-3 going to the fourth quarter, if I'm only focused on the end of the game's over.
Yeah, Robert, I really, really like that. I mean, you just gave me a pretty good visual. I hope people are seeing it, what he's saying. Is even if you look at your monthly or weekly goal, your daily goal is how you play the game, because you're going to have a bad day, but tomorrow you could have a good day. But you can't play this game by the week. So if you have a bad Monday, you're not going to give up the rest of the week, and a lot of us do. Mm-hmm. Or if you had a bad Wednesday, you gave up Thursday and Friday. We got to play the game on a daily basis and win the week to get the week, right? Like you were saying. Yeah. I really like that.
I love it. There you go. No, it's 100% right. We do. We give up. We give up too soon. So you got to keep those short-term goals throughout the year, the daily, the weekly goals. Okay. That's what leads to the big ones. Otherwise, again, it seems too far away and you procrastinate, as Miguel said, or as he also said, the goal seems it doesn't seem attainable. Win the day, win the day, win the week. I wrote down here next, this is something that Mike has taught for years as far as goal setting motivation, is write a letter to yourself dated December 31st, 2022. I mean, he wrote this originally. It wasn't 2022, but I'll adjust it. Write a letter to yourself dated December 31st, 2022 that talks about all the goals that you've accomplished, and read it daily. So you're telling your future self, dear Robert, what a year 2022 was. We did X, 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 and X. All right. Read it to yourself daily. Next point here on goal setting and motivation. This is important. This is an important one for everyone to understand. Remember, it sounds good to have a well-balanced life. However, people who are highly successful in one area of their life are generally unbalanced in other areas. It sounds good to have a well-balanced life. However, people who are highly successful in one area of their life are generally unbalanced in other areas of their life. I want to make $500,000. Okay. But I only want to work five hours a day because, I want to make sure I'm with my kids in the morning and I want to pick them up in the afternoon. I want to have dinner ready for my spouse in the evening. So 500 grand, working from 10 to 3, 4 days a week. I don't want to work weekends either. I got to have that balance. That's probably not going to happen. Okay. So you need to figure out, okay, do I unbalance a little bit on the income to bring that down as far as a goal, or do I have a conversation with my family to make that maybe a little more unbalanced? I remember Neil Weichel talking about that. Neil Weichel, for those of you that don't know, is up in the Santa Clarita area. Great agent. In his career has made, I don't know, probably at this point, close to $60 million in commission, which means he's, decent at his job. And he talked about one day that if you tell your family that for the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be slightly unbalanced. But if you let me do what I need to do for the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be set up for the next 20. Now, your family might be okay with that. They might not be okay with that. But have that conversation with them. Don't assume that your family's okay with that concept. Here's what I mean. Not everybody in the family is also motivated by the money. They might be might want more of your time than your money. So here's what I mean. You might think, oh gosh, I'm going to go to my spouse and I'm going to show her how we're going to make $300,000 this year. And I'm just going to tell her, hey, look, I got to work this many hours and this, but we're going to make $300,000. And your spouse might look at you and say, is there any way for you to make $150 and spend more time at home? I'd rather have you at $150 and more time at home than $300 and no time at home. Now, other spouses might say, yeah, go make the 300 grand. Because then it's going to set us up to do X, 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 X. That's why part of the goal setting, you have to have this conversation with your family in terms of the balance of your life and how it goes with the goals that you're setting. But to be well-balanced and highly successful in every area is probably not going to be possible. Okay? It's just part of the process. I wrote down here next, set goals in 5 areas of your life. Set goals of 5 areas of your life. Physical, mental, spiritual, family, and money. Set goals in 5 areas of your life. If you're only a goal setter in the office and not a goal setter out of the office, you probably won't reach your goals in the office. So let me ask you a question. Does your personal life interfere with work life? Yeah, 100%. And does your work life interfere with your personal life? Yeah, 100%. So you have to set goals for everything because it's all interrelated. I've said this to people before. It usually upsets some people, but you can't be a slob at home and be a professional in the office. It's just not going to work. You can't be a terrible human being outside the office and be a super, super duper great pro real estate agent inside the office. It's probably not going to work. So you have to set goals for everything. Mental. If your mind is not protected, then you're not going to be any good. If your family goals are not in sync, then your work goals are not going to work out. If you can't physically go to work, then you can't make any money. You're not going to make any money in a hospital bed. Okay. You're not going to make any money if you're out of breath walking from your car to the front door of the listing appointment. Okay. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. You have to set physical goals for yourself, right? So goal setting is not just internally, it's externally. Internal inside the office and external as well. I remember this. I was 20 years old. Right? I had my first real sales job, again, doing home loans. And my boss tells me, all right, Robert, when you're in here, when you're in these doors, nothing out there matters. And when you're outside these doors, nothing in here matters. I said, wow, what a great concept. So if I don't make any money in here, my wife can't get mad at me out there. What a wonderful idea. Honey, I know we don't have any money, but that's an in there problem. Get mad at me because we're out here now. That's not going to work. It's all related. It's all related. I wrote down here next. Remember, since you become what you think about your goals daily and they become a reality. Since you become what you think about your goals daily and they become a reality. Okay. Review your goals weekly and take steps each week to achieve the goals that you have set. We've talked about that a little bit, short-term goals, but review them. You don't have to answer. Okay. Actually, I would prefer it if you don't because it'll probably upset me. But have you ever completed a goal sheet or a business plan, put it in the drawer, and didn't look at it again for the rest of the year? Ah, look at Miguel. Miguel's got his stuff there. That a boy. Yeah, he does okay in this business.
We got to look at it though, and that's what's changing for me, man. Is looking at it.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from Ron Cronin. And Ron Cronin talked about how every day he would print out his business plan and his goals. He would condense it to a one-sheet thing, the main thing, not the whole business plan. And what he would do is he'd put it in his pocket. And all day long, he's walking around on the phone, prospecting with that, and he's constantly pulling the sheet out of his pocket and looking at it. And he said by the end of the day, because he pulled it in and out of his pocket so many times that the paper was just like totally warped, just beat up to where he would have to print it out again the next day. You have to have them in front of you all the time, okay? Otherwise, you get into that Zig Ziglar comment of, are you going to work tomorrow because that's what you're supposed to do? If you're going to work because that's what you're supposed to do, then you're no closer to the goals that you're trying to achieve. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good point.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Who here has ever gotten up to go to work because that's just what they were supposed to do?
And the sad thing is, I look back at it, it's like 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'll get up, well, it's Wednesday. I got up, go to work. What if instead of that, you put your goals on your nightstand? So when the alarm clock went off, you hit the alarm, you looked at your goals and said, let's go. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I'm getting up and getting going. Right? Instead of getting up and going, oh my gosh, it's still dark outside. It's probably cold. Oh man, I don't want to do this. All right.
Yep.
Keep your goals in front of you all the time. They have to. Now, here's the trick. If you're reading your goals and you ever get to that moment where you're no longer motivated to go to work, you need new goals. Your goals could change. And if you ever get to that point where you're no longer motivated to go to work by looking at your goals, you need new goals. You need to think bigger. You need something more exciting in your life. So rewrite your goals. Some of you, we do that every so often throughout the year. We have these conversations and we'll say, rewrite your goals. Find something that's exciting, rewrite them. I say this joke all the time, right? But this is just to give you an example. Is you say, okay, Robert, here's my goal. I want to take my family on a—
Hey, just checking in on you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, boss. Thanks for asking. All right. You write down your goal is, I want to take my family on a first class trip all throughout Italy for like a month. First class, the whole thing. We're going to go up and down Florence, Rome, Venice, the whole thing. That's my goal. Okay, great. And then the alarm clock goes off and you look at it and you go, you know, there's a really great authentic Italian restaurant like right down the street. I'm sure the food there is very similar. We'll be fine. And then you hit the snooze button. You need a new goal. The Italy trip isn't it. Sometimes our goal is, well, I want a bigger house. And then you realize that, yeah, the bigger house would be nice, but I don't need it. So then that's not the goal. When you're no longer motivated to go to work, you need new goals. And that's okay. That's what we call normal. Okay. I wrote down here, there's an incredible power in reading and writing your goals on a weekly basis. All right. Wrote down here next, share your goals with your family, your mastermind partners, your accountability partners, your coaches, everyone. Goals that are not made public are useless. John Maxwell. I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of people, so I get to quote a lot of different things. Goals that are not made public are useless. John Maxwell. Share them. Don't hide them. I'm not telling you, I'm not saying that you have to go post them on Instagram or Facebook or something like that for the world to see, but share them. And you have to share them with your family. We talked about that a little bit already. Family has to buy into what you're doing. Because if they don't buy in, if your family doesn't buy into your goals, then what are you allowing them to do? What happens to real estate agents, independent contractors, when your family doesn't buy into your goals? What are we allowing them to do?
Kill your dream.
Kill your dreams. But how? What are we allowing them to do on a daily basis? We're allowing them to distract us.
Distraction.
If we don't get the family to buy in as an independent contractor, you're allowing them to distract you because they know that you're not punching a clock. So they know they can call you at 10:30 and they expect you to answer and they want to talk about the grocery list for the day. Hey, do you think you can get off a little bit early and pick up that thing at the dry cleaning? You know, hey, I got, my in-law, my parents are coming in, to the airport. Their flight's going to arrive a little bit early. You think you can go to the airport? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you get this? Hey, can you come home? There's a leak in the sink. You think you can get off work and come home and fix it? When you don't get them to buy into the plan, you're allowing them to distract you from doing your job because as an independent contractor, they know you don't punch a clock. You have to get the family on board, including the kids. Everybody has to be on board. Everybody has to be on board. Okay. All right. I wrote a couple more points here. Goal setting, motivation. Next one, be sure to put a completion date for each goal that you have. This is huge. Huge point here. Be sure to put a completion date for each goal that you have. This goes back to a little bit of what Miguel was talking about with the yearly goal. You set a goal for yourself. If you don't put a completion date, it can seem like, I'll get there. It's so far away. It's not a big deal. You have to put a completion date for each goal. So give you an example. I mentioned earlier, you might have a goal that's an experience. I want to do a first class trip to Italy. Take the family first class trip to Italy. Okay, well, when would you like to do that? Don't just say that's what you want to do. Otherwise, the next year, it just that goal just keeps going on. So I just read a recent study that falls into this point. They did a study on what's the state that most people would like to visit. They did a survey and they asked people, what's the state you would most like to visit? What do you, anybody want to take a guess what the state is that most people would like to visit?
California.
New York.
California was number 2. New York coincidentally was number 7, which blew my mind.
Florida.
Wow.
No, it wasn't Florida.
It had to be California.
California was 2. It was the second most popular answer. The most popular answer was Hawaii.
I almost said that.
Hawaii was the most popular answer. But here was the interesting thing. What they asked the question, what's the state that you most like to visit? Hawaii got the most responses. And yet they then asked the question, have you ever been? And almost everybody said no. Yet when California was number 2, they asked you, have you ever been to California? And almost everyone said yes. So the point is, if you don't set the completion date, you fall into that. Well, yeah, we want to visit Hawaii. And we just say it every year. We want to visit Hawaii. We never go. We never put a date on it. We never plan it. But yeah, that's what we want to do. That's what happens when you don't put a completion date on your goal. So I want to go to Hawaii. Okay, when? Well, I can't go this year. It's not going to make it this year, with everything going on. Okay. So if you set up a first, whatever you want to do, how about next year? Well, I want to plan it out. It's probably going to be a $40,000, $50,000 trip because I want to bring everyone. I want to really stay at the nice hotels and I want to go cheap. So it's going to be a $50,000 trip. Okay, great. So 2 years, March 2024, would that work? Like put a date on it. A date doesn't have to be tomorrow. It could be 2 years from now, 3 years now. Said at the production retreat last week, plan your vacations 5 years from now, 5 years in advance. But put a completion date on each goal that you want to achieve. Now that could be those types of goals, but also your business goals.
Hey, Robert, how about Cancun, other states?
Well, what'd you say, Michael?
How about Cancun, other states, other than the states?
There you go. Cancun, sure, perfect. Beautiful. Wherever you want to go. We like to go down to Cabo. Cabo's wonderful for us. But yeah, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, wherever you want to go down there. All good. But it's also for your business goals. I want to learn this script. Okay, when? Put a date. Okay, put a date on it. Put a completion date for each goal. It's huge, hugely important. Okay. Okay, this is a great line from Mike Ferry. Great line here. The best way to predict your future is to invent it daily. The best way to predict your future is to invent it daily. Goal setting is a process of inventing your future rather than just letting it happen to you. Goal setting is a process of inventing your future rather than just letting it happen to you. Okay. Invent the future that you're trying to create. Don't just let it happen to you because it probably won't. And then the last couple points here as we're getting ready to wrap up. I wrote down, there is nothing that you cannot have once you have mentally accepted the fact that you can have it. There is nothing you cannot have. There's nothing that you cannot have once you have mentally accepted the fact that you can have it. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about their business, and the thing that was holding them back, it's the funniest thing is that fear of success. Well, if I do this, can I really get that much business? Can I really get that many listings? If I did all this work, if I really did all the prospecting, all the previewing, all the practicing, if I really did all that, could I really make that many deals? Could I really get that much? It's possible once you mentally accept that you can do it. But if you don't mentally accept that you can do it, then yes, it will be impossible in terms of real estate, okay? Because, you know, I can try to mentally accept the fact that I should be playing on the Lakers, but that's probably not going to happen. Although, based on their current situation, I might have a shot. I'm just kidding. That was a low blow. But in real estate, once you accept the fact that you can have it, then nothing's impossible. Because as Neil Schwartz would say, there's nothing special about special people. You know, every single one of the people that we've ever interviewed, or everyone in our company that's doing amazing numbers, started out as a brand new licensee one day. They started out doing 4 deals, and then they started out doing, or at one point they did 10 deals, and one point they did 20 deals, you know? So wherever you're at in your business, they were there at one point too. There's nothing that you cannot have once you have mentally accepted that you can have it. All right. And then 2 more points. I wrote down here, not getting to your goal is okay. Not getting to your goal is okay. Not trying to get there is never okay. Not getting to your goal is okay. That happens. Not trying to get there is never okay. You're not always going to hit the goal. But there's no excuse to not try to get there, not try to hit it, to do the activities. My goal today is to get a listing appointment. I made 45 contacts. I got hung up 44 of them. And the only one who didn't hang up on me, you know, cursed at me for 10 minutes. I didn't get my goal today, but I tried. I contacted 45 people. Is so much better than, well, my goal was to get a listing today. And, you know, I called one person and then they weren't ready. And then I just called it a day. Well, then you didn't really try to get to your goal. My goal is to really learn the scripts. Okay, great. But I didn't really have time to practice today. Well, come on. Robert, I'm practicing the script every day. I can't get it for some reason. What am I missing? That happens. Sometimes memorization is tough for people. Doesn't make you dumb or slow or not as talented as anyone else. Everyone's got certain skills and certain holdbacks. Okay. For some people, memorization is just hard, but they're trying every day. Not getting to your goal is okay. Not trying to get there is never okay. And then the last point I wrote down here, it is important to remember that you have to sell and resell yourself on the goals that you are going to achieve. It is important to remember that you have to sell and resell yourself on the goals that you're going to achieve. Because when you write down your goals, for example, you have a goal. Now, has anyone here ever written a goal for themselves and then at some point doubted if they could get it? Or doubt or ask themselves, is this really the goal that I want? You have to constantly resell yourself on the goals that you want to achieve because it's hard and it's a frustrating business. Questions on anything we went over today? No? Good. Good.
Well, I thought this was great. This really kind of hit home, but it was just, you know, like another refreshers for me anyway of what Mike just went over. And I'm like, wow, I see it. I'm starting to sink into his head here.
I love it.
You know, I'm like, you know what? From the second time of seeing Mike Ferry, I feel like, you know what? I should have did this years ago.
Well, you know, we meet every Tuesday for people that have that same thought. There's a special group of people that have that same thought. Gosh, I wish I'd have started this years ago. You know,
No.
we have special jackets made, the whole thing. So you're not alone. There's a lot of us that are in that same boat of, gosh, I should have started this years ago.
Yeah. Hey, Robert, and I would say, because it's something I've been talking to Ron Cronin for a while, and, I kind of fought my schedule, right? Our schedule. Let's just talk as a group as a whole. And I don't know if this is, I don't want to be taken the wrong way in terms of how I'm saying this, but it's a way that I can relate. And for me, I really want to geek out, GEEK, geek out on my schedule and goals, just overly geek out on that, because
Sure.
Ultimately that's the reminder that we all need to what our job is and what our objective is for the day, for the week. So I'm gonna level up is what I'm saying in this area.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I like the term geek out on it. Absolutely. Yeah, it's huge. It's the same thing we do with clients, right? You go to a seller and Neil or myself or whoever your coaches may be, I got a seller lead. What's typically the first question we ask? If you sell me, I got a seller lead. What's typically the first question that I ask? Either the first or second question I ask, or Neil ask, or Ron ask.
Great. Where are you moving to?
Yeah. What's the motivation?
Yeah. Motivation. Yeah.
We do it with the clients. I got a seller. What's the motivation? We have to do the same thing with ourselves. What's the motivation for us to move forward? What's the motivation for us to take action? Same way we do with a seller. What's their motivation to sell it? Because if there's no motivation for them to sell, are they going to sell it? No. And if there's no motivation for you to prospect 3 hours a day, are you going to do it? No. So to Miguel's point, you have to geek out on the motivation, the goals, the schedule, the things like that. I think it's huge. It's huge. You just won't do it in this business. It's not that much fun. It just won't. Get rejected all day. You're not going to get rejected all day unless you see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So dig deep, find that out. Okay. And then just go for it. Very good.